cultivar plant helper. I remember the cousin. It's that Albert, wasn't it? So a cultivar, this is grafted, and I'm not sure, this was a question for Jack because he's the nursery propagator, but I believe it's grafted on Picea avies. I don't even think it's grafted on Picea pungens. And there's probably a reason for that. There's probably, maybe it's difficult. I could be wrong, but that's a question we'll have to ask Jack. But grafted, and grafting takes, and Jack will do some grafting with you in second year. It's a little bit of a process, and I've actually tried it, and all the grafts that I tried with Paul Vandercroft, who does it for a living, failed. No, those all rooted. Yeah, they were all fine. No, this was grafts a number of years ago. So by grafting a plant, there's a process, and there's almost a year delay in propagation because you've got to grow the rootstock, and where you would grow the rootstock and then grow it on and sell it, then you've got to graft it. So you've taken a year out of production, plus you've incurred much more labor in producing the plant, and hence why grafted plants are much more expensive. But for a lot of the dwarf conifers, it is really one of the only ways that we can get these cultivars into production. So we're actually cloning them. So this is the difference. When you do seed selection, you get the variability. And here you can see the shape of those Picea pungens. Right? See the really narrow one, and then the wide one, and then the medium one, and then notwithstanding the colors and forms of the plant. So the only way to get consistency is to graft them. And here you see a grafted specimen. This will get quite wide. Fat Albert will get quite wide compared to its height, whereas most species are typically pyramidal. Now, there are tons and tons and tons of cultivars of blue spruce. There are tons of cultivars of a lot of the evergreens that we're studying. So I'm only going to introduce you to a few of them, just so that you have some exposure to the different cultivars. Right? You could spend weeks just talking about the cultivars of blue spruce, because there's enough to do a whole course on it. So don't get hung up that this is the only cultivar there is, because there aren't. There's probably the more popular one is Glauca globosa, which is the rounded form of the blue spruce, which everybody has, which we don't have. I don't think, maybe that's it over there. Similar to that one over on the wall over there. But this is a fairly good, reliable cultivar of blue spruce. They're dwarf conifers. So this is a dwarf compared to the species, even though it might not be dwarf in your eyes, right? So dwarf is always defined in relationship to the parents, or the original species. So this is going to get probably about 20 or so feet tall eventually, and then quite wide. So is it dwarf compared to this little guy or compared to some of the others? But compare it to the species, and it is substantially different. All of the cultivars, as far as I know, are susceptible to spruce canker, but they rarely get it because they are smaller and they're not as stressed. Now, I've seen Picea pungens globosa get it, but this one doesn't need the soil volume. It's in a better location, etc. It doesn't have the same impact. The urban conditions don't have the same impact on it as the species do.